Welcome, everyone, to Wisdom Wednesday. Happy you're joining. We'll give it a couple minutes to let people jump on the call. We're going to be talking today about our transition to spring, which can be a little rough in general. I don't know how all of you have been feeling. By the way, I love when you write in that chat box. I can't always follow it, but I do read everything later. And I have my assistant watching it too. Brenda's like, it's so messy, isn't it, Brenda? I agree. It is a bit messy. We're going to talk about some potential reasons why that might be. And as always, I encourage you to really stay tuned into yourself. Even if one thing resonates, that's sort of the message you're here to hear today. I'm going to talk in general about why spring is so messy. It's so emotionally labile. And then, of course, I want to give you some tools. And I think we'll do, depending on our time and sort of how I moved today, we'll do some sort of in-person present moment tools to work with as well. Hi, Georgina from British Columbia, Canada. Love that you're here. Yeah, tell me where you all are from as you're jumping on. Always curious. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to jump into my slides and people can join as they can. Lots to sort of go through today. And then again, if possible, I want to give you some opportunities to, in person, in the moment, practice how we can really adjust this season. I think that's sort of the name of the game. We have to work with our capacity to adjust to this big shift. There's a lot more light. And even though light on the surface feels like a really positive thing, it can be actually really challenging. So very ironic there. We'll dive into a bit of why that might be. So we're going to talk about the many moods of spring. I've been having all of them. So if you're in the same boat as me, know that you're not alone. Most of you have maybe joined Wisdom Wednesday before. It's a free talk I give on the first Wednesday of every month. These are the roles that I play in my life. There are many other roles I play as well. I always say this isn't exactly who I am, but these are the roles that I play. But I really do feel that part of my dharma or my deep work in this world is this integration of the two sort of intellectual loves of my life, which are psychology and yoga. So these are the things we're going to go through today. But I guess what I really want to point out as you look through, this is what you're going to learn today, is my interest in this started through my study of Ayurveda, which they often call the sister science to yoga. And what Ayurveda teaches us a lot is looking to nature, looking to cycles, aligning with the cycles, whether it's a moon cycle or the seasonal cycles. And it got me really curious about how our moods were impacted by seasons. When I started to learn, Ayurveda says, yes, of course, your whole being is impacted by the seasons. It finally brought into light for me all my confusion as to why I suffered so much in the fall. Now, you might suffer more in the spring, and in a moment, I'll explain why. We usually have much more challenges emotionally in the fall and in the spring. These tend to be a little bit more turbulent seasons than winter and summer, which tend to be a little more steady. Not that there isn't turmoil in those seasons as well. So when I began to understand that much of my anxiety could be contributed to just a seasonal shift in the fall, suddenly I could soften self-flagellation towards myself. I could take precautionary things. I could take care of my body in different ways. And so even though I don't have as much of a struggle in the spring as I do in the fall, I still definitely feel these emotional roller coaster moods that come and go at this time of the year. And so much of what I want to share today, transmit today, is just a sense of hope, also a sense of, I guess normalization would maybe be the word, helping normalize your highs and lows right now. And then just encouragement that just like anything else in life, this too shall pass. So if we can understand what we're going through, we can have a couple tools to help us out, to soften the hard edges. That's great. And that's what I'm hoping to provide today. I love this quote by Mark Twain. And also, by the way, this picture was taken near you guys are getting periodic gaps in the audio I'm seeing. Is anyone else getting that, or is it maybe just Barbara? Sometimes it's, if you are getting gaps in audio, more than one person, let me know. No gaps for me. Okay, great. So it might just be, thanks y'all for speaking up. So this picture was just recently taken near Winterset, Iowa, so my home state here. And in the spring, I've counted 136 different kinds of weather. I think we've had 136 kinds of weather in just the last 2 days, from tornadoes to sun to rain inside of 24 hours. So this is what spring, I think Mark Twain said it so perfectly. So because the weather is so volatile, so often it means that our emotions are really volatile as well. So we could say we maybe have 136 different moods inside of 24 hours. We are as much a part of nature as the tree outside your window is. And again, this is coming from sort of this study of yoga and Ayurveda, that we are as much a part of nature as the animals outside, the plants outside. Why would we not experience some of the highs and lows of the season of spring as well? So much of our mood shifting right now is, we can't explain it all away to the spring. Of course, I don't want to sort of feed you sort of this false idea that we can look at our mood state in the last couple weeks since spring started. We're only 2 weeks in, and blame it on the season or the weather per se. But there is a lot of correlation between volatile moods and this season. So I want to take you into the science. I love the esoteric side of the study of yoga, but I also love the scientific side of psychology. And so I find, amazingly enough, great joy in trying to pull these two, what seem on the surface perhaps disparate, but I think go together so beautifully. So we do know that admissions rates for men do spike. Admission rates to hospitalization for psychiatric reasons do spike in the spring. Now, interestingly, for women, it's more bimodal, meaning that there are as many. So admission rates for women spike in the fall and the spring. So it seems that women may have a slightly more challenging time in the fall than men do, but it seems like across the board, no matter what your gender is, there does tend to be more challenges and more hospitalizations in the spring. There's just also more aggression. And these are at clinical levels. So again, you may not fall into clinical levels of aggression or depression, but, we're all humans that have a whole range of emotions. And so, I think on some levels, we can all relate to this. So anyone feeling more aggressive these days? Well, it tends to spike in the spring. So that road rage or that just irritability. For me recently, it's just like an angstiness, like an antsiness, just and it's for me, it's just like right under the surface. If someone has the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, there tends to be more manic episodes in the spring. So mania starts to ramp up. And suicide rates, this has been sort of known for quite a while, tend to be highest in the spring. So we often talk about in Ayurveda that in the fall, we all tend towards just more anxiety. And in the spring, we tend towards more depression. We're coming out of winter, which is a heavier time. There's a lot of heavy energy, which is normal. It's not problematic or bad. But if our system has more challenge letting go of some of that heaviness, some of that stagnation, the depression can then start to move more into the spring as well. All right, so why is this? So what I was just sharing with you were a lot of correlational studies. I'm going to just say at the outset that no one fully understands necessarily from a scientific perspective yet as to why there's such a shift in mood as we come to spring, but there are some theories. So this is what I want to share a little bit about today. So first, there's definitely a change in hormones. Now in the winter, we produce a lot more melatonin, which is perhaps why we sleep more, or we spend more time resting, we spend more time on the couch. So not only in the spring does our melatonin go down, but our testosterone levels go down. So this is an interesting thing. In spring, we all produce less testosterone, and there's the lowest sexual activity in the spring. So there's been studies looking at people's sexual activity. It spikes in summer and into fall, but it's the lowest in the spring. There are high pollen counts that happen in the spring. I am one of the lucky people that do not have seasonal allergies. If you have seasonal allergies, you probably can attest to the fact that it's miserable, right? And when our bodies feel quite miserable, and of course it impacts our moods. But there's some correlation or some belief that these high pollen counts are connected to more depression in the spring. And then this is the final one, circadian rhythms. This is what people are really talking most about. And I was lucky enough during my clinical internship year, which I did at Rush Hospital in Chicago. I worked in a sleep disorders clinic. And so I started to get sort of a taste and interest in the science of sleep. And whether, this idea of our circadian rhythms getting really shifted according to seasons. And of course, most of us know that our artificial light can mess big time with our circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms really help us sleep. They help sort of all the systems in, the systems of our bodies. And so what they think is going on in the spring is that if people are prone towards depression, their circadian rhythms are already misaligned with the light cycles of the earth. And so as they come into spring, they're several hours off of the normal light cycle of the earth. And so they can't quite realign their own rhythms with the rhythms of the planet. There's a fascinating article that I want all of you to know about. And I think Sean is going to try to get this actually into there it goes. It was in the Washington Post last year. But it's actually one of these really cool articles that as you scroll down, the images change. And so this is just one of many images you'll see when you read this, but it's all about talking about daylight savings and how potentially problematic it is for us. I actually noticed it a lot in myself this year. I really struggled when we sprang forward. And again, the planet has its own sort of solar cycle. And we do best when our circadian rhythms align with the cycles of the sun. Now, when we even switch our time 1 hour, it's like our cycle doesn't quite match up with the cycle of the planet, and we struggle. So, and then some people, if they have sensitive circadian rhythms or they have had sleep issues or depression, they may struggle more. So If you are curious about that, or if you're one of those people that is hoping that they do away with daylight savings, read this article. It's actually quite fascinating. So one of the theories as well as to why we are so challenged in the spring is this idea is that there is just more light. We really start to feel the influx of light in February. That's when things really start to amp up and we start to experience more light. Now, I want to sort of move from my scientific left brain, the data that I was just sharing with you, and move more towards a little more philosophical, spiritual, symbolic idea here as to what light does to us. Now, on the surface, I'll speak for myself. I prefer the light, right? I prefer the long days of summer than the short days of winter. So light is associated with expansion. It's often feels more positive. We don't feel so heavy energetically. But the key of thinking about light is that when we have an influx of light, which by the way, right now we have much more light than we've had in the last 6 months, last 9 months, perhaps we could say. We also today specifically, this is the full moon day. So we're not only getting light during the day, we're getting actually a lot of light at night. What does light do to us? Well, light just illuminates everything around us. So it definitely has this capacity to illuminate joy, for us to be able to look around and see and observe all the things in our life for which we have deep gratitude. It can make us really present, when we are able to see the joyful things in our life. But the other side of the coin is that light also illuminates our shadow. So when we are bathed in more light, even if it's just the light of spring and summer, there's more possibility to shine light on where we're stuck, or what we're avoiding, or what we don't want to look at, or what we've pushed away. Now, I have a theory, and I don't have any science to back this up. And this actually, my personal theory is actually coming out of a program I just finished teaching. I had about 50 people with me on a heroine's journey that we started at the fall equinox. It was a 6-month program. It ended on the spring equinox. So it just ended a couple weeks ago. If any of you are on this call from that program, I miss you. I miss all of you. We always gathered together on Monday nights. But the real gist of the program, going from fall to spring, was sort of moving our awareness in and down. Right? This is the energy of fall and winter, sort of pulling in and moving down. So winter is actually a really key time. If we're aligned with these cycles and nature, winter is a really key time to do shadow work, to sort of look at, where am I stuck? What am I avoiding? Where am I wounded? Why am I getting triggered by certain things in my life? So we together as a group, through many exercises and meditations and journal prompts that I sent, we all sort of did this dive into some of our shadows. And one of the women shared with me after this program was done, she goes, I faced really, really hard stuff. I faced ending of a relationship, a job change. And she said, I feel so free right now because I actually faced it. And I faced it due in part because there was support. There was a structure for facing it. And I know I faced a lot of shadow. I know many people I've talked to faced a lot of shadow. So for me, going into spring, I'm actually feeling lighter this time of year than I normally do. And I think it's because there was some shadow work that was done. It's like we did face the shadow. So there's not as much shadow, not that there's not shadow, because there's always shadow, but the work, we did some of the work. So there's more possibility to have an illumination of joy. Now, for those of you who are like, oh shit, what I did over the winter was I kind of numbed out and watched Netflix. We've all been there. That's what we also do sometimes in the winter. So this isn't a judgment call on what your spring is like. This is also, I hope, not an opportunity for you to go into sort of self-blame, like, oh crap, I didn't do any inner work, so now my spring is gonna, no, no, no. But it's this balance. It's this balance because joy and shadow go together. Light and dark go together. We can think of them as the same coin, just different sides. And I remember one teacher saying to me, if you want to show or channel or be or express more light in the world, you have to be willing to dig down deeper and deeper and deeper into the shadow. So the deeper we dig into the shadow, the higher towards light that you can move. So they go together. So all I'm saying right now is I don't know what your experience is right now. Whatever your experience is, I'm going to encourage you to trust that experience and know that based on sort of your life trajectory, spring could be a lot of illumination of joy, or spring could be a lot of illumination of pain and challenge, or it could be a messy mix of both of them, right? But this is what the light does for us. It is harder to sort of go asleep and numb out when there's a lot of light. You know, we can do that more in the winter, but this is, you know, it gets more challenging. Now, the other thing the influx of light does is it frightens us. So that beautiful, well-known quote that most people know, or many people know, of Marianne Williamson, that it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. This is such a phenomenal concept, and I'm so grateful for Marianne's wise counsel and her putting this idea out into the world. I remember when I first read this quote, I was in my 20s, and I wrote it down and I kept it. So why does our light frighten us? And I was having lunch actually with a friend yesterday. She's on this call. And we were talking about how spring sort of requires us to step up more, right? There's more energy, there's more light. This is the time to plant seeds. This is the time to get projects going, to be more engaged in the world. So you can feel this pressure, that there's somehow more responsibility facing us, right? And it takes a little bit more effort. But what I want to remind all of us today, myself included, I had to bring Caitlin Clark into this talk today. You know, if you're from Iowa, you know, if you're not from Iowa, you might not know who Caitlin Clark is. I think she's pretty well known now. But she is this rock star, phenomenal young basketball player who everyone is tweeting and talking about. But this young woman does not play small, right? She goes for it, right? She has vision. She had a lot of hope. She had a lot of drive. She had a lot of willpower. And in many ways, she's such a beautiful example to all of us, no matter our age, no matter whether we're an athlete, no matter what our stage is in life, of that we're being asked to step up and you know, our planet more than any other time in history really needs light bearers, needs people willing to sort of step up and not be afraid of their light, but be willing to expand and shine their light more out into the world. So these are the 3 big tasks of spring that I'm going to really encourage you to start to consider how you could implement these, or sort of how I talk about them, adjust them to your lifestyle, adjust them to your unique situation. So we need to cleanse, we need to choose, and we need to connect. So cleansing, we got to cleanse the body. This is the time of year we got to get moving. We all know this, but you know, I'm just going to say it again. We got to move the body. So much stagnation energetically gets sort of built up in the body over the winter months. This is normal. It's not that we've done anything wrong, but as spring starts to happen, we are going to physically feel better if we're moving. And so your yoga practice engages more movement. Get out for walks, just start to get the body flowing. This is also a time of year we might choose to cleanse. And I get asked a lot about cleansing in the spring. I have, I don't know, for many, many years done a spring cleanse. I used to do one in the fall too, but I find it's not for me as useful in the fall. And I'm going to have Sean put in our chat box. The woman I've worked with for years on Ayurvedic spring cleanses is a woman named Kate Stillman. She's quite a well-known Ayurvedic teacher. She's written several books. I will say though, if you are here in the Midwest, it's still kind of cold out. And I know my body isn't ready to cleanse yet. Usually you want it to be a little warmer before you're ready to cleanse. And I do different cleanses. I often do Ayurvedic ones where you just eat mung beans and rice. And it's just a way to sort of, get the body reset. I'm not an expert on it. I just have done it myself personally. So that's why I'm going to turn you on to Kate Stillman if that speaks to you. We also need to cleanse the mind. And so I want to offer to you today a mantra, perhaps my favorite way of purifying or cleansing the stagnation of my mind, which is a lot, right? We all get kind of stuck in these mindsets, and often, unfortunately, they're not helpful. They're pretty negative. So meditation is my go-to, my daily go-to for sort of clearing out the cobwebs, cleansing my mind per se. And I am a long-term mantra meditator, meaning that when I meditate, I repeat a mantra. And I want to suggest, and the reason, let me pause before I go into this mantra. I want to offer that mantra meditation seems to be especially effective for people who have these really busy minds. I love the idea of open awareness meditation, but for me, it's been really challenging. So when I was taught mantra that I could just let my mind focus in on a phrase, it kind of revolutionized and kept me engaged with the practice. So a mantra that you could use that works really beautifully in the spring is Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. And the translation of this mantra would be, I am a field of possibility, which is so perfect for spring because there's so much pure potential in this season of spring. So we're going to do a 1-minute mantra meditation. And I want you just to observe. So mantra is typically always in Sanskrit when you use mantra. And there's some idea that just the energetic repetition of mantra, it's sort of like a power-packed phrase, has this capacity to shift our awareness, our energy, our well-being very, very quickly. So we're going to do 1 minute here. Even if you are somehow listening to this while you're driving, clearly don't close your eyes, but still let the sound of this mantra permeate your whole being. And when I practice mantra myself, it's an internal silent repetition. But as I guide you in this next moment, in this next minute, it's actually going to be, I'm going to repeat it and just have you listen, hear it, take it in. So if you're in a place that you could settle in, I'm going to encourage you to take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, just close your eyes and feel yourself drop in. So it's as if your awareness does move inward and down. Take a moment to feel the sensation of your feet on the floor and your hands perhaps in your lap. And then as you allow yourself to settle in, just set the intention that you would allow your focus to remain with the sound of my voice as we work with the powerful mantra Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. So feeling how your body, your mind is responding immediately to the sound, the vibration, the energy, the essence of Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. Om Bhavum Namah. Take a nice deep breath in, open your eyes, notice how you feel. Mantra can be used not only in sort of a more formal seated meditation like we just did. You could also just repeat this as you're walking into your office or as you're preparing dinner as a way to sort of open up, especially if you're feeling quite constricted, quite heavy, quite sort of overwhelmed by the season of spring. Just sort of letting that mantra sort of be on a circular playlist in your mind can be really useful. Don't ever underestimate the power of mantra. I am often blown away when I work with mantra in my life, how powerful it is. All right. We also want to cleanse our energy, and a great way to cleanse energy is cleanse the breath. So we have sort of an energy body. It's about 1 inch off the physical body. And breath work is one of the quickest way to shift our energy. It can shift almost immediately. Breath, of all the tools from yoga, I think it's, again, just one of the most efficient ways to shift our mindset. So I want to teach you Bellows breath. Also, this will be very brief, but this is a great one to use in the spring. So you'll see in the picture, they've made fist. And I actually like when you make a fist to bring your thumb in and then wrap your fingers around your thumb. Bellows breath consists of a sharp inhale through the nose. You're going to pause and then a sharp exhale through the nose. And as you sharp exhale, you also feel a little bit of stimulation here in the solar plexus. So on the sharp inhale, you're actually going to extend your arms up into the sky, fingers spread. And then as you exhale, sharp exhale, fist come down to the side of the body. So I'm going to do about 10 of these. You can follow along or you can just watch. Why do we do Bellows breath? Bellows breath is not only grounding. We need more grounding during spring because of all this swirling energy, but it also lifts our energy. So it's this beautiful balance of lifting our energy, which we need in spring, but then grounding us as well. So it is highly, highly useful this time of year. All right, so before we get started, feel your feet on the ground or feel your pelvis in your chair. Here we go. If you practiced along with me, keep your eyes closed, let your hands relax down to your thighs. And again, just take a moment to observe and feel. So what I feel in my own body is a lot of heat, a lot of energy, a lot of vibrancy, actually in my solar plexus, in my heart, in my throat. There's a bit of a buzzing energy, but it doesn't feel like the buzzing energy that comes after drinking an espresso. It's sort of like a vibrant, excited energy with that stability of a strong root. So that was my experience of Bellows breath. You might have had something different. If you have questions or comments, put them in that chat box. So that is a way to cleanse your energy. And then cleanse your closets. You all know how to do that. It's a time of year to do it. Get out there and, see how that goes. It always feels so good to clean some things out. Okay, so the 3 mindsets of spring: we have to cleanse, we have to choose, and then we'll get to the third one here in a moment. So what do I mean by choose? I essentially mean you got to choose you. Right? You have to choose you. I believe you probably, or you should be choosing you all year round, But there's something about spring. Winter really is a time to go in, to learn lessons, to look at yourself, to work with your own shadow. Once you sort of have learned these things, you have to carry them into spring. And so this really often does mean I went in. Now I'm not just going to throw myself back out there in the world and lose myself. I have to continue to choose. I have to stay in and down as I'm also engaging in the world around me. So choose to wake up, and we can think of this. I love this because we can think about this in multiple ways. Continue to wake up to your own light, to your own power, to your own way of serving the world, but also choose to wake up before the sun, right? So I have noticed I am not someone who tends to have troubles getting out of bed. I've always been someone my whole life. In the morning, I pop up very quickly. Not in these last couple of weeks. I have found myself oversleeping, sleeping till 7:30 or 8. This is, again, no judgment either way. This just isn't normal for me. This is part of what happens to us in spring. We have this heaviness of winter. It carries into spring, but I will say I'm not feeling better by sleeping in. Sometimes you have a nice long rest and you wake up feeling refreshed. I'm not feeling extra refreshed by staying in bed for an extra, hour and a half. This is related to those circadian rhythms I was talking about earlier. Getting up either with the sunrise or just a little before the sunrise will make you infinitely more energized this time of year. So I know that's a hard one, but see how it goes. Choose boundaries. I kind of alluded to this before. We tend to learn a lot about ourselves in the winter months because we're not as engaged in the world. We're more internal. So we have to maintain or put boundaries up to keep sort of that loving kindness for ourselves. Choose to live from the heart. So the energy of spring is a stagnant, heavier energy. It tends to live in the base of the body. So we start to feel, this is why we feel lethargic. This is why we can't get out of bed in the morning. So we need to start to bring more awareness into the heart, shift our awareness up to help lighten some of that earthiness that we've picked up just naturally over the course of the winter. We'll get to heart here in a moment, practice from the heart. And then last but not least, choose stimulation, right? Start to do some new things, shake it up a little bit, take a different way to work, go out and do something you haven't done for a while. It's very interesting. I am not a big caffeine drinker. I never have been, and I tend to kind of shy away from it, especially in the fall. I've noticed in the last week that I actually have been having a little bit of coffee, which is not normal for me. But as I'm sort of thinking about this from an energetic space, it's almost like my body knows I need a little more stimulation. Now, I'm not saying coffee is the stimulation that is ideal, but I'm just seeing in myself that my system sort of knows we need more stimulation this time of year. Okay, so those are the things to choose. So remember, we cleanse, we choose, and then the last thing is connect. Now, this one can be really challenging. I was born an extrovert for sure. I have always gained energy by being around a lot of people, by having a lot of friends, by going out and doing things with others. Now, similar to the theory, if you know anything about Myers-Briggs, extroverts or introverts tend to move more towards the mean as they age, meaning that as we age, if we're an extreme extrovert, we start to move more towards the introvert side of things. So, and I can feel this in myself as I'm much more introverted as I have aged. So this is also a time of the year that I have been feeling that I am not ready to be out in the world yet. I'm not ready to be walking through the Ped Mall without my coat and my hat on and, see people and make eye contact and talk. I haven't felt ready for that yet. But this is the gradual sort of time period we're in where we are being asked to connect more. Yes, winter is a time where we are given sort of the space and the time to hole up, to hibernate, to disengage on some level. Spring is saying, no, that was long enough. Now it's time to be back in the world. For some of you, this may be easy. It may be mindless, like, I got this, I'm good at this. For others of you, especially if you are more on the introvert side of things, this is more challenging. But the research is so robust that connection is necessary. It increases our lifespan, it helps our physical health, our mental health. So this is the time period of the year where we have to start putting our toes out and our, take our hats off, be more engaged with people. So reach out. So my encouragement to you today, all of my friends on this, is to reach out to someone today. And this might be a friend you've been thinking about. This might be a neighbor. This might be someone you haven't talked to for a long time. Make the effort to send a text, or better yet, call someone. Be old-fashioned, call someone, set up a time for coffee, connect. Okay, I want to end today with talking briefly about hope, because this is the other thing that spring is sort of energetically known for. It's known to be a season of hope. So when I start to see the daffodils and the crocus poking out of my front yard, it does give me hope. Winter is often, especially if you live in the Midwest where we have, these really extreme seasons, it's sort of like, we got through this darker, heavier winter time. There is hope. We're moving towards more light. Hope on the surface, again, can feel wishful thinking. It can feel a little escapist, whereas the research defines hope. So the psychological research defines hope as optimism plus willpower. So we are optimistic. We envision what we want to have happen. I was so inspired when I heard that Lisa Bluter, the coach of the women's basketball team here at Iowa, she had her team at the beginning of the season sit and envision themselves in the Final Four, right? So it's the optimism that this could happen, the hope that this could happen, but sort of just being in your mind and envisioning it isn't enough. We have to take our optimism, and now we have to engage the energy of spring, which is action, which is will, which is, go out and do it. And that really is the definition of hope. So I'd like you to close your eyes if you're in a space where you can do it. Maybe place a hand on your heart. And with that hand on your heart, take a moment to consciously breathe in. And exhale, really land your attention in the heart. We talked about how as we come out of the energetically heavy time of winter, we need to work with more lightness. So landing more attention in the heart is powerful. And as you practice staying with your intention and your attention in the heart, I'd like you to imagine that wherever you are right now, whether you're in your living room or at your office, that energetically what is surrounding you on all sides is goodness, benevolence, light, hope, love, positivity. So feeling into this sort of field of goodness that is around you, above you, below you, behind you, in front of you. It is literally surrounding you 360 degrees. this goodness, this love, this hope. They say that hope is not necessarily a feeling, it's more of an experience. So as you stay tuned in to this positivity, this goodness, this light that is surrounding you on all sides, this sort of potent, generative energy, notice what it feels like to you. Is it comforting? Is it warm? Is it hopeful? Or does it create sort of some antsiness in you? Some impatience? Whatever your experience is beautiful. There is no right, there is no wrong. But as you continue to work with this power of imagination, I want you to now imagine that this light, this goodness, this love, this benevolence that is surrounding you. Imagine now that as you inhale, this goodness is coming in through the crown of the head. And as you exhale, this goodness, this light is really settling and expanding your heart space. Now, as you inhale, any of the heaviness of winter that you're still carrying, let that lift up on this inhale to the crown of the head. And as you exhale, imagine it being dispersed. Just imagine it being released. We do that again. As you inhale, you imagine pulling light and goodness and hope down through the crown of the head into the heart. And as you exhale, let that hope and that goodness expand and almost light your heart from within. Now, on an inhale, if you still are carrying heaviness, darkness, pain, fear in the heart, use this inhale to lift that up to the crown of the head. And as you exhale, let it go. So you're starting to feel perhaps lighter and lighter in the body, in the mind, and the heart as we move through this 2-breath exercise. We'll do it one last time. Just imagine, feel, envision that what is surrounding you is goodness and light, and purity and healing. And as you inhale, imagine it pulling in through the crown of the head down to the heart. And as you exhale, that light, that goodness only expands and grows. On this next inhale, any heaviness, grief, pain, challenge, fear that's been living over the light of your heart, let it lift up to the crown, and then joyfully on this exhale, let it go. You do not need it anymore. It is not serving you. And we take a moment to just let the breath settle, pause. And perhaps keeping your eyes closed to end today in this more receptive space through even just a very brief imagery, meditative breath experience. I want to share the powerful words of the poet John O'Donohue. And this poem is called For a New Beginning. So we can think of this new beginning of spring, this planting of seeds. These are his words. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease and risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. All right, take a nice deep breath in. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I love that. Soon you will be at home in a new rhythm. That is what we're trying to do, is adjust to the new rhythm of spring. Thank you all for being a part of this today, for tuning in. I really always appreciate that people show up. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay on for just a couple more minutes if anyone had questions. Oh, thank you. So a couple things that if you would be curious to join, Wednesday the 19th, we're starting, and if you were in Reclaim, you know all about this process. We're starting cacao ceremonies on the new moon every month. It's a new moons are, so this will be in 2 weeks. It's a great time to set intention. So you can join online. You have to provide your own cacao if you join online, or you can join in person, and we will provide the cacao for you. So Wednesday the 19th, it's at noon. It's just an hour from noon to 1. I'll be guiding this first one. So if you would like to join, whether it's online or in person, please join. And then approximately 6 months from now, I'm going to Ireland with the group. So yoga, meditation, sort of healing energy work. It's a week. If you'd like to join, there are just a couple spots left. And oh, Kathy, I love that the next new moon is a solar eclipse, which means it's extra powerful. But if you have had thoughts or inklings that Ireland is calling to you, I would love to have you there. Barb's going to be there with me. So check it out. Consider it. All levels of yoga, so you do not have to be an intense yogi, right? We do physical work, emotional work, writing work, but it's always powerful. So if that's something that you'd like to consider, let me know. All right, y'all. Great to hear from you. Get better soon, Mark. Thanks for that message. Just looking through all these great comments. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, someone has a question here. I said I was going to stay on, answer questions. Georgina. So when you're first using mantra, often what happens with people when you first use mantra is that you find yourself automatically connecting with your breath. That is not problematic, but it doesn't have to be connected with your breath. So Om Bhavum Namah, like if I wanted it to connect to my breath, I might inhale Om Bhavam, exhale Namah, Om Bhavam, exhale Namah. But, as you continue to work and get comfortable using mantra, it's almost just like it's a repetitive phrase going through the back of your head that you're listening to versus like repeating it. But I do find when I teach mantra meditation that in the beginning, people get stuck because they're like, I want it to connect to my breath. Holding the breath, Georgina, isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, yogic pranayama often talks about breath retention, that we inhale, we hold the breath, keep it in for a little bit, and then exhale. But I'm thinking you might mean that you are like just holding the breath almost in tension or anxiety. That's why hearing the mantra like I led you through today might be helpful so that you can focus on keeping the breath going versus repeating it yourself. But I think what I just explained might be helpful for you is if you notice holding your breath, consciously link it to your breath. Inhale Om Bhavam, pause the breath for a moment. Exhale, Namah. Inhale, Om Bhavam. Exhale, Namah. So maybe consciously linking it would help you avoid holding it. Yes, John O'Donohue, that y'all, this book, everyone should own. It should be in everyone's library, I think, to bless the space between us. It's just this beautiful book of blessings. I swear he's thought of every possible thing that you might need a blessing for. So great, great book to have. All right, y'all. Thanks again for your presence. If you know, this will be on our YouTube channel, Heartland Yoga YouTube channel, as well as Dr. Yoga Mama YouTube channel. And please share it if there's anyone else you think might benefit from knowing that the emotional highs and lows of spring are relatively normal. Okay. Jennifer, great to see you on here. We miss you here in Iowa. Okay, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you next month.